Yeah, hi everyone. Subhash here. Could someone please confirm if I'm audible?
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So let's wait for another 1 minute so that all the folks could join. Okay. I think we have passed 3 minutes. So let's start our meeting. Okay, I'll just share my screen. Is what I have planned for today's agenda. Let me share my screen. Okay. I hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, these are the agenda items, and feel free to add any items if you would like to add. So yeah, but the first item is after the new year, we are meeting for the first time. So happy new year to everyone. And yes, second point that we would discuss about the impact analysis. That was one of our use case. So template already we have prepared, and we are waiting for feedbacks from everyone, so you could review it. And the third one, so I have created one more user story, so that talks about the end-to-end assurance loop. So that involves how a user could provide a assurance goal and how that could be translated to some observability related requirement, and based on those collected KPI, we could take action. So that I try to formulate it. And recently also we were discussing about uh, 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 all the flow, all the steps I was discussing about. So and today I would like to discuss the fourth item. So I would like to discuss about the second part of that assurance loop. So where we would like to take action. So how exactly we could take action, and how we could modify the configuration of any NF. So we will discuss about those possibilities, and how we could progress. And also the last item, I think that was added by the Marcy, right, Marcy?
Yeah, I believe on Slack, somebody said that there were some concrete requirements for observability.
Yes. Actually, yeah, recently we were discussing about the like we have the dependency on the observability because we need to collect some KPI, and based on that we need to take action. So how we could configure this observability. So that requirement actually we can discuss in the same item on the action mechanism or assurance loop. So there we will discuss it. So yeah, this is the today's highlight, like what exactly we would like to do. And okay, with that I'll go to the action item. I'll start from the agenda item 2. So here I'll just open it. Okay, just let me check if Bernard is there. Bernard, are you there around? All right. Okay. 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 But Bernard is not here, so I'll just cover this part. So yeah, so this user stories actually we prepared with like to relate high level intent with the low level resources, and we wanted to we have planned some kind of APIs. So I'm just revising because I'm seeing a lot of new folks. So just I'm giving the overview about this user story. So we have planned for some APIs like we could query with this intent what are the resources are related, and let's say if some intents are getting impacted, so which are the other intents are getting impacted because of it. So for finding those kind of relationship, we have created this APIs requirement so that we can serve it to the outside or any northbound to the nephew, so they can utilize the assurance loop that is running at the very high level, so that they can utilize this information, and they can create another high level assurance loop. So I added this item because there's some requirement came from the SIG side that we need some new items to be captured in the user stories. So those are the component architecture, AP design, and some software development requirements. So those still I think we need to add it. So we were discussing on it. And also currently now I have added one more user stories. So we need to bring the synchronization between these user stories around the component. So that we wanted to discuss on it. But yeah, Bernard is not there. So I directly jump to the our second user story. So I think there we can cover a requirement for the observability and also the end-to-end flow, so that we could discuss, and also the component architecture. So something I have brought it. And yeah, so any questions around item 2? So we can take it here. If any questions are there. Okay. So yeah, yes, Vim.
Where do you store the user story? So where is this document that you were doing?
Okay. So it is the
okay, in the documents. Okay, in the
in the workgroup 5 service assurance. So this is the document impact analysis.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I wanted to review it.
Yeah. Okay. So sure, and everyone welcome to give the feedback, and if anything is there, we can discuss over the Slack also. That will definitely help us to mature it. And I'll jump on the second item. Okay. So the second item was our assurance loop, so that we were discussing here. So it's a mix of our next item also. So yeah, I'll just jump on here. So yeah, in recent meetings, we were discussing on the end-to-end flow. So what I did, I converted this flow as a user story, so that we can work on it. So I'll just open the user story. So yeah, I had just initiated this document. So I have provided some feature overview, like this assurance loop going to expose some kind of required details to the external assurance loop, because we are going to maintain some kind of a relationship, right? So it will expose it outside, and also the end user can communicate with the service assurance, and they can provide their assurance goal to the service assurance, and later on the assurance will transform it into required observability related configuration, and collect those KPIs, and take the action. So yeah, I have documented these steps, and I'll go through once again. I'll go through this flow with what we discussed in our last 2 or 3 meetings. So that we will I'll just go through it once again. So I have put those diagram here, and yeah, still many sections are empty. Okay, so yeah, so I'm trying to I'll try to fill it, but yeah, parallelly I would request everyone to review it, and if you see any gaps, or if you see any it's like we are diverging from the direction, so please try share your comments. And also I have tried to break down the component architecture. So I'll jump on this diagram after going through the flow, so that means we will able to understand it. So this diagram, I have brought it for the architectural component. Okay, and let's jump on this flow actually. Okay, so I hope it's clearly visible to everyone. I have put on the slideshow mode.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so here what I tried to do it, I have some components like a SIG controller. So I put it as a placeholder for service assurance related functionality. So this is responsible for the service assurance. Currently I visualize it as a controller, but all, the implementation wise, it can be distributed over all the package over the different parts of the Nephew controller. So that implementation also we can have it, but yeah, just to put the requirement, I just put like a service assurance controller is there. And yeah, there's a Cube API server, and there's a package controller, and also there is an observability module. So it is a not a part of the service assurance platform that we were designing, but so this observability work is already getting done by SIG2 folks, and I think Steven is the main contact person there. So we just assuming that observability module, we have it, and we'll pass the requirement to observability. And of course, there's a Porch which does the package orchestration, and there's a GitHub between management cluster and the workload cluster, and using the config sync, finally package gets sorry, our resources get deployed, or YAML gets deployed. So yeah, the green box represents the management cluster, and the I would say the pink color, or okay, so the other color that is the workload cluster. Okay. So, so our service assurance controller, it will keep on listing on any, it is listening on the package revision. So if any package revision gets created, it will keep on listing on it. So the end user comes, and he creates he creates a SACR, it's like a service assurance CR. So there he tells about what are the condition sorry, he tells about its assurance goal. So here, if I tell you, go little bit back. So the model is like I was just trying to build that model, is like how exactly it will look like. So the assurance goal holds the details about what are the target list, what should be observed, and what is the operational state, administrative state. So everything it has. Okay, so it will talk about what NF entity need to be observed. For example, I would like to observe the UPA for certain keys. Like just take example like a load. I would like to take. I would like to observe, and if the load is 80%, so I would like to take certain action. So just assume that that we are trying to do it. Okay. So that CR we created in a service assurance controller, and then the user creates one UPF for deployment. So he creates a package variant set, and the package controller serves it. So finally, again, sorry, this part, the step 4, I missed it. So this will get generated by the package controller. So it will generate a notification for the service assurance control because it is listening on the package reason that UPA for package reason got created. Okay. So now that means now we got our package where we would like to observe, or we would like to observe the NF. So that is the UPF. Okay. So what we here is what we like to answer, what and when to observe. So yeah, I'll just go back here also. So actually that's in the CR we would like to cover these 4 items. What need to observe, so that is offered by the service assurance, so that information. How it should be observed, so that should be answered by the observability. And when to correlate, again the service assurance will do the correlation part. And what action need to be taken, that again service assurance will take it. So this is all about like how for the NF, what are which part of the activity will be done by the service assurance or observability, just to make it more declarative. Okay. So I hope till step 4 everything is clear. I'm going to the step number 5, where I'm telling the first information, what need to be observed, what and when to observe. Okay. So for that I'll create one we inject one CR for the observability, just to communicate with the observability that I would like to observe the UPF, and please give me the load related parameter if the load reaches to the 80% or 60%. So that kind of requirement I'll pass over the CR. Okay. So still miss, I'm not sure like what API observability will expose to get consumed. Like I would like to pass only this requirement, like what and when to observe. So I think observability should answer it. So I'll just check with the Marcin. So Marcin, are you okay? It's like with step number 5. Any comments? Do you have it there?
I mean,
Okay.
it would be obviously like what we're observing is very case dependent, but as of right now, everything is clear with me.
Okay. So what we are trying to do is in the package itself, we will inject that CR, like how we do with the IP or LAN or any NAT, right? We will create that requirement, and the observability will fulfill it. So once we create that CR inside the package, the observability will pick it, and he will do all the necessary configuration. Either it would be in a management cluster related to Prometheus, like if I feel Prometheus would be running on the management cluster, so the observability will configure it. Also, they need to configure some kind of a scrapper or any Prometheus exporter in the workload cluster. So we are just providing the requirement to observability, and observability will configure end-to-end observability related mechanism for us. It's all depends on the observability, what they choose it, right? So once this is done, then so we are sure that observability part is clear. Like we got the answer, like what and when to observe. Now next thing is related to taking the action, right? So yeah, definitely we need to initiate one active pod in the management or workload cluster, so that we can listen on that data stream that generated by the observability. Okay. So yeah, here actually important thing is that this action pod could be in a management and could be in a workload cluster. So I feel I was just telling this example because I feel we can take advantage of creating a loop very close to the NF itself. or we could have a second loop where the action pod is sitting in the management cluster. So if I if I take I'll just go to one more diagram. What just to tell you like what exactly I'm talking about. Yeah, here. Okay. Yeah, Bim, I can see your hand. Sorry, I did not observe, see it. Yeah, Bim, please go ahead. If you have any questions.
So I think we have, I mean, there might
Yeah.
be more loops, but just for the sake of discussion, there will be probably two loops, right? So one is in the
Yeah.
workload cluster, one is in the management cluster, and one is for more near real time, and the other one is less real time, if you will.
Yeah.
So in my view, as a controller that you have there, right? So you will have two flavors, one that acts in the workload cluster itself, and
Yeah.
one that is in the management cluster.
Yeah.
But the top level could give the requirements from the top, right? So in other words, what I'm trying to say is that there could be two loops that are being consumed, of which one
Yes.
can be in the workload cluster and the other one could be in the management cluster, right?
Yes. Yes. Of course. Yeah.
In other words, there will be a controller of some sort, right?
Yes. Yes.
And then the question is who does supply it? But if you do generic service assurance, probably a service assurance entity that sits in the work cluster, and there will be another one that sits in the management cluster.
Yeah.
And they are focusing on different aspects, right?
Yeah.
So
Just I'm opening that possibilities. Of course, I agree. Like with that option, actually, we can take our action very close to the NF itself. So, like
Correct.
in the face-to-face meeting, we identified there are three closed loops are there. One involves the management MSO. It's like I'll just take an example like ONAP is sitting on the top and it has its own service assurance loop. So there by using that we are taking action. So the assurance actually will expose some kind of data which MSO can consume it and create its own loop. The second one, we feel that using the management cluster, we can create a loop. So that means from NF, we collected some information and we do certain kind of massage on the those KPI parameters and finally taking the action by the help of management cluster. So again, it's not real time. I just there will be some delay. Assume that. And the second and the nearest loop that we are seeing, we can directly put our active pods here, which would be consuming the data stream generated by the observability, and we can immediately take action on the NF. So that is also one possibility I was seeing. So yeah, just to address loop number 2 and loop number 3, we can do certain things. Okay. Any query here, or Bim, I'm aligned with your thoughts, or
yeah, the only thing is that your diagram doesn't reflect. I mean, this diagram reflects it, but the flow that you show
yes.
doesn't. So in
Yeah,
other words, I think you will have two sets of requirements, one that are going to be consumed by the workload cluster and the other ones that are being consumed by the management cluster. And I think there's a different, so you might indicate in your
yes, yeah, here
the first,
itself.
the second, I think that
Step 7.
or we should discuss, I'm not sure that the life cycle of service assurance and the life cycle of the package are sometimes related. Which means that the mechanism by which you, let's say, do stuff might be, we have to decouple it, in my view. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is that, okay, you're of course dependent on the package because that will tell you what will be deployed, right? But I have the feeling that the life cycle of your service assurance might be different than the package. And as a result, tying the two together might not be a good idea. because it means that for any change that you want from a requirements point of view, you will change the package all the time. So it's I'm just sharing my high level thoughts. I haven't thought it through, but
Yeah.
it seems it might not be ideal.
Yeah. Yeah. Wim, actually, I was also thinking the same, but what I was feeling like, right? For me, the single source of truth is that package, right? So in the whatever things are there in the package, definitely I need to. Yeah.
I'm not sure whether it's a single source of truth for a particular thing. That doesn't mean we have to boil the ocean with putting everything inside. So you could have another single source of truth for other pieces.
Okay.
Because
so
the reason why I'm saying it and why I want to discuss it is we are going to create a very big blob, right? And I don't believe that's a good idea.
Okay. But again, it will be. Yes, Wim, please go ahead. I'll go after you.
Yeah. So in other words, so what we are saying is, okay, we have a package for deployment. Okay, we are going to add service assurance, so we'll make it bigger, right? We add additional config, will make it bigger again and again and again. Why not have these life cycles decoupled of these different entities? And of course, someone will merge them together, right? But I'm not sure whether it's a good idea to basically continue to boil the ocean and make it bigger and bigger and bigger because it's, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I just wanted to discuss it. I have a feeling it's going to be cumbersome.
Yeah. So yeah, I think decoupling will become a problem because otherwise a user has to create a package, and with that context he need to create some service assurance related goal here, because he should be aware about both the things.
So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you don't know about it, but that means do you have to? So for you to do the change, right? You not necessarily have to change the package itself to do the change. You have a dependency. You see, so there I do agree there is a dependency between it. So that's I'm on the same page with you on that. But what I'm trying to say is that the result of that change doesn't necessarily mean you have to change the package, right? Because so if you see what I'm saying, so now you're coupling the two together always, whereas I'm saying, okay, just you are watching the package for the change because it might be that a network function disappears or adds or whatever, right? But so you will have a view on those changes, and then you will act based on the results that you see. So in other words, it's coupled, but it's basically loosely coupled.
Right.
But as right now, it's tightly coupled. I mean, every change you do, you're going to change the package, and it becomes like a big blob, right?
No, Wim, I was thinking like I'll receive some package revision, and I'll just filter out whether it needs some kind of observability or not. So based on that, I'll inject the CR. So that was my impression actually.
Yeah, so I don't disagree. I agree with actually, but the result, changing the package is what I'm debating.
Okay.
Because you could create another package that or whatever, you could create a set of resources that are required for your service assurance that are a result of that. And there is two ways to do it. There is one is like you are saying here, you change the package to add those service assurance requirements. The other option is you create another package or another way to convey that information, right?
Right. Actually, yeah, it's between the observability and the service assurance, how they will communicate to each other. Right.
Yeah, correct. Because it's now so we create a dependency between the package, and I have the feeling that making this package bigger is not always a good idea, I think.
Yeah. Actually, we depend on the observability, how they expose the API. So if they depend on the package, on certain requirement, so then we need to inject it, right? So I think observability also need to decide how they will expose. I think, is that a correct approach, Wim? Do you think observability should decide first?
No, it's not about observability, it's about us, right? So about us as a group,
Yeah, okay.
what is the best way forward? And then we have to agree. Right. So that's basically what I'm debating. I'm trying to challenge the two approaches. Or not challenge. I'm trying to
suggest
give another perspective that it's not
yeah.
necessarily has to be a package update. It can also be another channel that lives next to it, but it's loosely coupled with it. So from that point, I think we agree. But the way to convey it, I'm saying there is two ways to do so. One is updating the package. The other one is to create a channel next to it, right?
Any gRPC kind of channel?
No. I'm not talking about gRPC. You could basically, so there is multiple ways to do so. That you could create another package, right?
I see. Okay.
Or you could basically, depending on how the observability is, you could basically create a CR to the observability, and the CR acts upon it, right? So it doesn't have to be. I don't see. My point is, GRPC I would like to avoid because it creates another RBAC enchilada, right? So you have to have all the and all that shit. So I think we should try to leverage the system we already have, because you'll add another security and authentication and RBAC rule enchilada that you need to cover.
Yeah, Wim, I think then we also need to think around which observability CR are related to the package, because tomorrow, let's say I delete the package or undeploy it, I need to withdraw those CRs, right? I need to delete it. So some mapping also would be needed.
And that's why you have to watch the package, right? So from that point of view, but if the package disappeared, you just delete the CR if that's the way we go, right? So that's standard practice in Kubernetes, right?
Okay, so
but I think we have to, maybe other people have to have their view as well. But so I think there is two ways to convey that information, I think, and that's what we should let's say discuss and maybe have different viewpoints upon. What other people view on it, right? I don't know whether anyone has a comment on or a view on what we are discussing.
Yeah, Tim is there, right?
Yeah, I think Tim has his hand up.
Not on
that particular one. I'm going to let you guys finish, but I have some comments that I think we need to take care of on the recommendation side or the action side.
Okay. So yeah, Stephen is also there. So Stephen, would you like to give your thoughts here?
So so you have a service assurance CL that sets policies, I guess. You want to inject that.
We're not calling it a policy, actually.
Okay.
Anyway,
so service assurance related CL. So I don't know what that is at this point. You're translating that into a observability CL, and you put that into a package.
Yes.
And then okay, someone injected in a package, I guess. The assay control does. And then somewhat within the specialization pipeline, we apply that CL, I guess, to the observability, which at this point I still don't know what that. To be honest, we don't even know what that observability CL is at this point. We're more on framework at this point, which is the only thing that we sort of decided is going to expose OTel interfaces, so we're not recreating things down. And in terms of creating tracers and metrics and spans definitions and things. But anyway, so assuming we have some sort of CL that are. So in this case, I actually would like to know what kind of CL do you want. So based on the information you have on your SA interfaces, and the fact that you are creating a UPF in this case, you want to sync a UPF specific tracing and things metrics requirements into and ask observability to start looking at it.
Right.
And this is before, because you're doing this in, so this is PR already. So you have a package revisions sending back. So you have an instance created. So we do have a target cluster that we know this is something to look at. And okay. And
actually, slight
and then-
correction I'll do. Just one small correction. So I was taking this approach, like I'll put like a condition for the observability, and still the package is not yet processed. So like I still a specializer did not say all the specializer or the controller which are participating on the package preparation, but still they did not say thumbs up for the package deployment. So I'm assuming still it is that life cycle. But yeah, Wim last time he suggested that let's deploy it first, and then we pass the this requirement. But yeah, just I have put like still it is a package processing phase, and step number 9.
What are the conditions that you're thinking about in terms of observability conditions?
Yeah. So this is the question we are trying to answer, like what and when to observe, so that that data will pass it to observability. Like what I'll just give one more example here. What and when. In case of the UPF, I would like to observe UPF for NF, and please provide me the metrics or KPI when the load crosses the 80% of the load. If it crosses, then give it to me. So what and when. So actually in the last time we were discussing the service assurance related CR should answer these 4 questions: what need to observe, how it should be observed, when to correlate, and what action need to be taken. So the question number 2, actually we pass it to the observability. Like observability should decide how it would like to observe it. Like they can scrap it, or they can have ABPF or any kind of configuration they have it for the observability. So this 3 information, service assurance will pass it or handle it, and observability only handle the how part. So we are just providing what UPF need to, what NF need to be observed, and what is the exact condition. Like 80%, whenever the load comes to the 80%, you start the data stream towards the service assurance. So yeah, this parameter we are passing to observability in the CR.
Okay. But then why does it have to be a package condition? So you're blocking deployment unless this is fulfilled?
Yeah, I was thinking like let's first as a first step set up everything so that we can observe. Till that time, we will not deploy the package. But yeah, it can be exchanged also.
So if for observability framework to be running already in the cluster, that's more like a infra dependencies. I think that's something we can take care of beyond using just package conditions. It's probably more like dependencies management thing. And yeah, it's just package condition is an interesting thing to use for that particular use case. Yeah, but CR, I agree. We are KLM system, so we could observability should expose some CRDs that people could apply their custom resources and ask observability to fulfill that intent, and then expose the data, and then we'll be able to send you a status and tell you when we'll be able to fulfill the things that you wanted to do. So the thing that you want to monitor. So we should be able to, we should expose that for sure, and we should talk about what kind of what that structure should look like for us, and but then yeah, that's basically it's pretty early stage even for us too. So at this point we are more in a way we're more concerned to see if the operator will be able to fetch metrics, and B whether we would be able to get something out of Free5GC when and the I think we talked about the sidecar approach, which is exposing an hotel
Right. Okay.
interface off of the off of whatever metrics, however way we collect the informations off of the workload or and the infrastructure will be there is a thing in the either right next to a workload or some host-based things where it would take things together and expose this various different providers types into OTel compatible pieces. There will be a data lake running to collect and organize things. So that if we are creating a CL for a particular UPF, for example, because we are more or less at this point interface-wise, we are in an instance oriented CL. Then anything that pertains to a particular UPF instance, for example, there's ways for you to get filter and subscribe and things. So that's probably more or less what we're thinking about at this point. High-level analytics, surface assurance are high-level applications that would be utilizing the service. So between this team and our team and our subgroup, obviously we would have to agree on what that CLD would look like.
Right.
I'm still very skeptical with the package condition piece, which is an interesting thing. Would be nice to know what you're thinking in terms of we need the observability. We need these specializers to help you fulfill requirements before we deploy. It's an interesting requirement. So I haven't quite grasped that yet. So.
And actually, I wanted to ask you another question, but Tim is waiting since very long, so I would like to give an opportunity. Tim, please go ahead.
So I'm just trying to parse what you're doing with what I understand a typical closed loop is and the various actors in play. So because if I look at this, we have two primary actors, right? There's the SA controller and then the observability framework, right? And so in a closed loop, you typically have some element of data collection where you're viewing that data, turning it into information that you can feed back to the controller so that they can do some analytics on it or decision or analytics that would reside to potentially to a recommendation that then can be acted upon, right? And so if I look at what you're talking about, you're expecting the observability framework to look at data that comes through and provide some information back to the SA controller, right? Is that accurate?
I'm guessing this is my question to me or a question to Subhash.
So actually, observability will provide one data stream. So actually, the second part of the slide, actually, I have for the action. So what we need to do it. So I think that you will find your answer here. So observability,
it's a trigger. It's a condition match for trigger. So he's looking at data, providing you information.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's fine.
So all the KPI parameters are there in the SA controller now.
Right. Now you're going to decide. Now the SA controller still has to do some analytics because you can get a bunch of different conditions before you want to.
Right. Yeah.
So your two is your analytics. Now that SA controller says, off of all this stuff that I have a recommendation. Now this is important.
Right.
Because a recommendation, one of the things you're going to have to look at for a recommendation is which entity in the system is capable of, and that could be multiple recommendations that can happen.
Okay.
Which entity in the system is capable of fulfilling or acting upon, that recommendation. That's one point that we'll have to worry about. Right now, I think you're assuming it's always the local whatever you guys trying to be injected in, right? All right. And so that's the other point that I have. And then the recommendation, once that controller that you send that recommendation to, he then has the responsibility of acting on that recommendation, right? And he can do that through whatever means that he needs to do that with. So I'm just trying to get what I'm used to seeing a closed loop.
Yeah.
You know, the actors that are involved in closed loops, like if you look at SDKSM or whatever, right? And then what you're doing here. And so I think I understand it enough that you really have where, you know, others have maybe, you know, 3 or 4 different actors. You've got 2 primary actors to do this work for you.
Right.
Looks like, right? At least through the recommendation phase. And so,
Correct.
but observability is, I tell you what metrics to look at, and I tell you what triggers are for those metrics, and you trigger those metrics back. You provide that information back to me. It may not be sufficient information for me as an SA controller to make a decision on it based upon my analysis, but at least I know it's there, right? So I'm just taking information in order to determine if I need to make a recommendation. I think is that accurate?
Yeah, currently the recommendation part that you're talking about, we don't have any such system. So first we are trying to make a very simplistic closed loop, so that
I'm just working with your framework, right? So you just created a very simple controller which says I act on my analysis. If I get a trigger, I'll make an act. I'll go to a recommendation, right?
Right.
I go straight to a recommendation. There is no hey, I'll try to do some other, which is fine. It's just a simple analytic controller. And then the recommendation you have sounds like it's just a simple action, right? And so, but my point is, be careful, right? Because I think you have to make a decision on a recommendation. I would really seriously caution you about looking at the recommendation. I've done this in other things, like in fixed line, right? Where that recommendation can be an orchestrated set of actions. So, and you have to find the correct controller that can handle that recommendation. So there has to be an association. I think you should put that in place, because if not, it's going to be more difficult down the road. Not less worried about the analytics side as I am the Okay, that's the comment that I needed.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Tim, you have hand raised.
Yeah, so I wanted to give a perspective on what Tim is saying. Basically, so the way I see it, so what I don't like actually, or maybe that we should discuss, is that we have one big SA controller. Okay.
Okay.
So in my view, so look at how Kubernetes works today, right? You have an autoscaler, which is actually a service assurance controller to scale or scale in and scale out a pod, right? Or a deployment or whatever thing. You will have, so there is other things like that takes data in and do an action, right? So in other words, if you make the system right, you will. I always think from a practice point of view, it's good to do one thing and one thing very well. So I believe you will have so you will have to split this into various, let's say, instances that take care of a particular aspect of something, right? And as a result, it becomes clearer of who does what. Right. Like if you have this as service assurance is huge, right? So there is so many aspects. You cannot basically pull it all in one big blob, right? So you have to divide and conquer. And as a result, you will see this flow potentially coming from various places.
Right.
And that's also why I believe it in the package is probably not the right way forward as such, because you will create way too many dependency to the package.
Okay. Wim, the step number 5 actually that still we need to discuss, debate. But I would like to add one more thing here. The step number 7, actually, if you observe it, right? So there you will find one more interesting step. When I say that instantiate an active pod in management and workload cluster to listen on the observability stream and to take the action. So as we all know that there could be a multiple assurance related requirements, right? So that business logic or that intelligence can sit on this particular active pod and it could be placed as your business logic as like in the workload cluster or management cluster. So it is a separate logic. So it could be a Docker image, means when you are creating a certain service assurance related CR, right? So that time you can say that in order to take this particular scale in or scale out or any upgrade, update, anything, for that you use particular this pod. So those parameter you can pass it, and the action is the logic is related to the action is in that pod, and that could be a separate decoupled logic. So that advantage actually I feel we can get from this framework. The step number 7. And
it's not necessarily one pod, right? It's you will have various actors
correct.
that
Yes.
handle one thing, right? So
yes.
and maybe you don't initiate. So sometimes you can initiate those things dynamically, right? But it
Of
could also be
course.
part of the infra that they're already in place, right? To do something.
Yeah. So that would be very interesting, because on a fly you can say what logic need to be run on certain action. You can place either in a management cluster, your workload cluster. If suppose actually I wanted to okay, there's time constant also, 8 minutes left. So I also wanted to ask one question to Steven. Is it really possible that we can take the data stream directly in a workload cluster instead of management cluster? Because from the previous diagram, what I was seeing, Prometheus directly placed in the management cluster. So that means we will only consume the data from the management cluster in the management cluster.
The current thinking is we have a data lake that sits on management cluster. The bad thing about having like any random applications subscribing and able to fetch metrics and things, collections are, if you're have post collections, all those things runs on management cluster anyway. So Prometheus, Jaeger, those things all run on management cluster anyway. So if you're fetching it, not like a stream of things that would come from the workload directly, but something that is already collected and you just fetch it or put watchers on the collectors, you are getting it from the management clusters. So we are not really changing any part of that.
Okay.
We also want to prevent any applications from just randomly able to tap into whatever metric streams or tracing streams that we're sending to the management clusters, because obviously we should have some sort of accessibility controlled on the observability frameworks. So obviously SA is an internal application, so it should be fine. But then observability is built for also either third-party applications or human to write some operators to write something to subscribe to certain things that they want to fetch. So those, we should have some sort of accessibility channel.
Actually, Steven, I wanted to ask another perspective. So where I am telling that I'm running my active pods or action pods somewhere in the workload cluster. Okay. Because I would like to satisfy my innermost closed loop. I would like to take a decision immediately and apply the action immediately. So I would like to consume the data stream directly here. And I know that the data lake would be created in the management cluster. So would it be okay? You could satisfy
that. So in that case, you're taking on a similar role than like a regular NF operators. So it is one of the requirements that we will allow them to be able to tap into that.
Okay, sure.
So yeah, that would be available.
So
although it is interesting because you're making, I'm guessing SA is making decisions off the system, not just off like one single NF instance. So maybe you need aggregations, but I don't know. I don't know what the SA context is, so I can't say that. But then,
I'm also just trying to build a framework, and also I'll ask for the use cases.
So we have that because operator able to get informations to make decisions locally is obviously a pretty strong requirement for observability. So you're basically acting pretty much as an operator, as another operator. beyond the NF operators,
yeah,
you
yeah,
have like some
yeah.
sort of SA operator that sits on
yeah.
a workload cluster. That's fine.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. So Wim, I take your input. Like we need to debate on the step number 5, and if any better fit we see for the step number 5, we will go around it, and also we'll discuss on more on it. And do you have any comments on this step number 7, which perspective I was trying to bring? Like we can have a decoupled business logic running in the management cluster or a workload cluster as an action pod.
Yeah, and whether you do it dynamically or whether they are in place or something like that shouldn't really matter. But so that depends on your requirement, right? If something is fulfilled. But so I see that so there is two things, right? It's like how to this actually goes to the point of you need to where we were saying before is there is a service assurance controller of a certain type running either in the management cluster or in the workload cluster, right? So for me, 7 is basically the workload cluster component.
Right. But in management cluster, do you think also it can fit, because data lake would be here, and I would like to consider multiple things.
That is not any different than the SA controller in my view. 7, if it's in the management cluster, it is the SA controller.
Right. Yeah. Here actually, what I wanted to make a thought here, that there will be multiple stream for the observability, right? There were multiple deployment. So if everything comes, that all the streams getting handled by the SA controller, then that will become a bottleneck point, right? So I was thinking, let's create a multiple segregated
but
pod.
I said before, that's what I said before, Subhash, right? So as a controller, you will have a gazillion of those, each focusing on a particular aspect.
Right.
Okay.
So
I think we should avoid building like a massive SA controller.
I agree. Yeah, that way to divide.
Basically divide and conquer, right? So we should, and if you do so, you have a distributed system, right?
Yeah, maybe this picture is not depicting properly that idea, but yeah, that thought I have it.
Yeah. Okay. So in other words, what you can do is basically say, for me, 7, if it's on the management cluster, but so you actually have multiple instances of your SA controller and that's it, right?
Yeah. Actually, we have 1 more minute left, and Bala has raised his hand. So Bala, please go ahead for this. In this last 1 minute. Yeah, Bala.
Thanks, Subhash. Thanks for presenting this. And I joined midway, so maybe slightly out of context, or this may have been already raised. To Wim's and Stephen's point, right now it appears to me that I think the deployment of the package is dependent on this particular the SACR. Instead of that, are you considering this in line with the deployment of the network function itself, or are you considering this as more as a day 2 operation where network function is already deployed, and then the corresponding observability interception is already deployed? Yeah. Then if you make it a day 2 scenario, that makes more sense, because then it's loosely coupled. Otherwise, you log the deployment of the NF itself.
Yeah, actually, this scenario we thought it package is deployed after the SACR got created, and package is already deployed and SACR got created later. But these 2 scenarios we have it actually. The first one is a simpler one, and the second one actually there some thinking is needed. So because all packages already deployed right now, we need to configure the observability related parameters, and I was taking this approach that I'll be listening on the packages, and whenever the package gets created, then at that time I'll inject the observability CR, and the observability will configure everything. And the second case where we say that the package is already deployed, then we create the CR, right? So there again, it's like some approach I need to find how I can communicate with the observability. So that part we need to discuss. So I think that will give some clarity. The step number 5, if you are able to understand, right, how the service assurance and observability will communicate. Is it the package is the correct way of communicating, or there, as Beam said, there's a separate channel for the communication. So that will help us to go through this case 1 and case 2 to solve it. So currently I'm just considering the case 1.
But so basically, if you loosely couple it, like I was suggesting, right? Then case 1 and case 2, basically, with the same approach.
Yeah, because Subhash, we need to consider because think about SA more as a policy, because it will come. Then there'll be more service assurance cases come after the package is deployed.
Yep.
So we cannot assume that we have all the cases defined when the package is deployed. So
I agree.
For example, let's say UPF is running, new metrics are getting defined, and then we have new use cases from the operator. So I think probably making it loosely coupled, I think I'm with Wim on that, so that we can cover our bases and make it future proof.
Yeah, of course, Bala, we are trying to make it loosely coupled, but certain scenarios we need to discuss it. I agree. We have to make it more distributed, more loosely coupled, so that we can address it, all the aspects. So I will be happy if you make a comment and enhance some of the steps here in this flow.
Thanks. By the way, really thank you for putting this together. Very nice presentation. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Bala. So yeah, we already crossed the time. So any closing remarks before we close, or any comments? Okay. The silence I'll take it. And thank you everyone for the first time we joined like a complete team from the service assurance and observability. So I thank everyone to discuss these ideas, and hope we'll make progress next week, and we'll meet next week once again. Thank you. Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Marcin has like the last minute hands up.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not used to Zoom. So is it already decided what we want to observe? Because I remember back in November, the talk was about capacity for the free network functions. Is this still up to date, or was it changed when it comes to what we actually want to observe for the individual network functions?
Is it the question for me?
Well, I guess it could be a question for you, for Stephen, for anybody who knows.
At this point, for whatever our CLD is, we can, the only thing we can really observe is capacity, because that's the only intense requirements that was given. But in terms of like validating that we are meeting their requirements, obviously you can collect as seems like Marcin is actually okay. Of course you can observe anything you want, and we can pull data, any type of data off. But then in the POC context, actually what you and I talked about, on POC context, without this, because SA obviously is not part of the POC yet for our observability POC. But then for our POC context, the only thing that we have existing so far is the capacity. So the more urgent metrics and traces or anything that we want to grab would be pertaining more to a capacity, to meeting that requirements. So we'll be able to see that, we'll be able to fetch those metrics, fetch those relevant information. Anyway, for now.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So
thank you. Have a good one.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.